Well, Mississippi State just landed their regional, but is it really a clear path to Omaha? We're breaking down the matchups, the momentum, and the potential red flags that could trip them up. Stick around. It's not all smooth sailing.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jaron Spor, national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. And we've got a packed show today. We finally have the baseball regional. It is set. We'll break down those matchups. Also, after that, we'll talk about how far can they go. If they go far, what does that mean for the current coaching staff? We'll break all that down. And then we're going to end with some football recruiting news. We have a commitment already that committed this past weekend. Is there more on the way? We'll talk about that. That's coming up later. But let's start off with baseball. The regional is set. Mississippi State is headed to the Tallahassee regional. Florida State is the 1 seed. Northeastern's the 2 seed. Mississippi State's the 3 seed. And Bethune-Cookman is the 4 seed. Exactly how D1 baseball predicted it.
I mean, they know what they're doing over there.
They know what they're doing. And we kind of briefly broke down that kind of regional yesterday, and we kind of, early on the first glance, kind of liked what we saw with that regional. After diving into it, though, and really going, after really getting into it, there are some things that we still like about it, but there are a lot of things that kind of bring red flags.
Yeah, on first glance, we didn't give Florida State's pitching staff the credit it deserves.
Yes,
because they don't have anyone that their stats are jumping out to you. But when you're diving into it, and if you read Keith Law, who used to be the GM of the Blue Jays, who does a lot of the top 100 for the MLB draft, a lot of those mock drafts for MLB, he has Jamie Arnold as the number 3 prospect in the upcoming draft.
Yeah,
and that's a rough draw. I mean, if you look at his raw stats outside of the strikeouts per inning, nothing jumps out to you. So it's very easy to see how you glance over his numbers. I think it's like 3.07 ERA, but he's averaging almost 1.2, 1.3 strikeouts per inning. That's a rough draw.
Yeah, he's a guy that 3.04 ERA is what he's having this year. His strikeouts are incredible at 97, but he's a guy that, like you said, has high potential. But he, last year was the year he really broke out. He went 11-3 as a starter. He struck out 159 batters last year. So he really had a lot of hype off of last season. Now, if you look at his numbers this year, they're down. Because he had a 2.98 ERA last year. It's up to 3.04 this year. His strikeouts are down to 97. He's also not been it's kind of weird because he's not really been the ace per se, because Joey Vellini has actually pitched more innings than he has. He's pitched almost 7 more innings than Jamie Arnold has, and he's appeared in 1 more game than Jamie Arnold did. He's also pitched 2 complete games, but his ERA is a 3.59. So they have 2 guys that are really good, and 2 guys that they can rely on, which that's really what you need going into this kind of tournament field.
Yeah, they have 2 pitchers that they can rely on, and they have a lot of power from the batting side of things coming from multiple different places. 2 guys with 17 home runs. That's Alex Lodice and Max Williams, and they also have Miles Bailey with 15 and Drew Farrote, I'm guessing on that pronunciation, with 14 home runs. So they have a lot of power coming from different places. At least, 4 guys with double-digit home runs, 2 pitchers that can carry them. So on first glance, we were like, no, this is not the worst regional. But as we dove into the stats and what this team has done and what these players are projected to do, that top seed looks a lot more daunting than it did when we were just kind of glancing over, maybe they'll go here, maybe they'll go there. Florida State's a good team.
Well, they have a lot of talent, but it's kind of the reason why we felt good about it just off first glance is because we kind of looked at what have they done recently.
Right.
and they hadn't played good baseball recently, or they haven't played good baseball recently. Now there's no shame in losing to North Carolina.
No.
3 out of the last 4 times. North Carolina is a very, very good team, but they lost to Cal, they lost to Clemson, they lost to Louisville 2 out of 3 times. Like, these are their last couple series that they've had. So they haven't played great baseball down the stretch, and they went 17-10 this year in the ACC, which is kind of, I believe it's kind of down of what it's been the last few years, but it's still a very good conference. But they went 17-10 there. They just kind of have struggled down the stretch. And you mentioned they have those 4 power hitters. Jamie Arnold's a top prospect. They have another really good pitching prospect, or another good, really good pitcher on the staff in Vellini. But you would think this kind of team, looking at their roster, looking at some of the stats, like, this is a top 5 team. This is a really good, like, this is a College World Series contending team, and they just haven't put that together. And that's kind of why we were like, okay, Mississippi State, they wouldn't be the hottest team, because we'll get to Northeastern in a second. We talked about them in the last podcast, but they'd be playing pretty good baseball heading into this, and Florida State isn't.
That's true, but I mean, that one of the things I talked about leading into this was there's not a pitcher you're scared of going into this regional. Turns out there actually is a pitcher you should be scared of. But I mean, it's one of those things when you're looking at what he did this season. Yeah, he's a very good pitcher, but he's not a dominant, like, force of nature that you're like, oh my God, we're in the regional with Jamie Arnold this year.
His talent says that.
Talent is off the charts. I mean, like I said, projected number 3 pick in the upcoming MLB draft.
Right.
That's a guy you're terrified of. So if he pitches up to his potential, that's not someone you want to be in a regional with. Coupled with a solid number 2 and 4 very, very good hitters, that's a terrifying number 1 seed. And off air, we were talking about Northeastern, and you were bringing up how hot they were, the type of hitters they have. This is not a good draw for our Bulldogs.
No, I mean, the one thing, and we kind of talked about this yesterday, Northeastern was very hot coming in, but you hope that your talent would overcome that. But, and I know it's not the same competition, but look at their 3 pitchers compared to what we just talked about with Florida State, who, again, 2 good pitchers. Will Jones is their ace. Has a 1.82 ERA. He has, 72 strikeouts, a 201 batting average allowed. And then Jordan Gottsman, I believe is his name, 2.30 ERA. He has, he has 91 strikeouts and a 1.80 ERA. And then Avon Cabral, I believe is how you say it, 2.74 ERA. He has 73 strikeouts and a 2.18 ERA. Those are 3 very good pitchers. Again, I know the competition is kind of down, but that's elite pitching. And then they have 3 guys with 10 or more home runs: Jack Goodman, Cam Maldonado, Harrison Feinberg, all over 10 home runs. And all 3 of those have over 50 RBIs. And then they have Alex Lane, who has 47 RBIs. Right. So they have some really good hitters as well. And what was it, 27 straight they've won? So they're a very hot team coming into the regional. But it's one of those that, very similar to how we were talking about in softball. If you get to the regional final, you've given yourself a chance.
Right. And you hope, I mean, you're getting Northeastern in game 1. That's who you're playing. You hope you get the best version of Pico. And I mean, we've seen him outduel pitchers who are projected in the top 10, top 15 of this next draft. So if he gives his best, you are giving yourself a chance to win that game. And if you win that game, all bets are off. I mean, if Evan pitches like he did that one game, 8 innings, 15 strikeouts, I'm not expecting that from him. That's an outlandish stat line. And if he can repeat that, awesome. But you get someone like that, and the bats stay hot. I mean, we've talked about what Ace is on, 22, 23 games straight.
Yeah, 22, I think now. Yeah.
Noah Sullivan's been getting hot. There's been a couple other guys who are starting to get hot again. Those guys stay hot. You get the best version of Pico game 1. Game 2, when assumingly you're playing Florida State, you're getting their number 2 starter who while he has very good stats, is not the level of Jamie Arnold, you give yourself a chance to win this thing.
Well, now you wonder, do they not pitch Arnold against Bethune-Cookman? I wouldn't if I was them. So then maybe you save them for that game against Northeastern or Mississippi State, whoever wins that. But
very true.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. We'll actually, coming up next, we're going to talk about how far we think they can go. And then depending on how far they go, what we think it means for this current staff and then moving forward. We'll talk about that. That's coming up next. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's why Monarch Money comes in your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. The best part, it's all in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. What's better than that? No one wants all these apps to have to go to every little thing. This is all right at your fingertips. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever with Monarch Money. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Finance is one of the biggest stresses when it comes to relationships. This helps alleviate a lot of that. So definitely check it out. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I forgot to do this the first segment. Shout out the everydayers. Thanks for listening every day. So shout out to you guys. All right, Landon. So we kind of broke down, we ignored Bethune-Cookman. So sorry for the Bethune-Cookman fans, but we kind of broke down what Northeastern and Florida State, what kind of challenges they would present. Right. Giving that knowledge, where do you kind of think this thing goes?
I mean, given that knowledge, I mean, as I dove into Florida State, they seem a much more daunting task to overcome them than I initially thought. But I really think this team tops out as a team that is in a super regional. They travel to somewhere else. They put up a fight, probably don't escape that. I really think that's best case scenario. Now, we've seen this team. We were ready to call them, dead a month ago, and they got so hot. So it's hard for me to bet against this team, but given what I know, I think they top out as a super regional. I don't expect them to beat Florida State and advance to that point, but that's where I see them ending.
Yeah, best case scenario, I agree. And we've said this for even when they were struggling. Like, this is a team that talent-wise is a super regional type team. They just had to figure some things out. And then they started playing like a super regional team the last, 10 games of the season. And then they kind of diverted back to their old ways in the SEC tournament. I think best case is that, but I think this one ends in the regional final. I think Florida State ends up beating them and moving on. But I think, and I would like to get your thoughts on this, worst case is you lose to Northeastern, then you turn around and lose to Bethune-Cookman. I just don't see that any way possible as happening. So I would say worst case is actually losing to Northeastern both times. I think if you can't even get to that Florida State game, that's a big issue because you should at least get to the regional final because you're that talented. Don't want to discourage anything that Northeastern's done. They're obviously having a heck of a season right now, and they're on a heck of a roll. But with your talent, you should beat them at least once.
Oh, yeah. Given the talent that is on this roster, the history of baseball at this school, and what is expected from them, getting in that regional final should be the bare minimum.
Right.
I mean, given what we all expect from this team, hosting the regional final should be the minimum.
Right.
But this season, getting there should be the minimum. I don't see them losing to Bethune-Cookman. Apologies to the 3 Bethune-Cookman fans upon this. But, yeah, I mean, Northeastern is a very hot team. They're very good, but they don't play the level of talent that Mississippi State, Florida State, the very good programs have week in, week out. They don't play that every day. So some of those numbers are a little, I don't want to say they're fake, but they're a little fudged.
They're inflated
because you're a very good team playing a very weak schedule. If they had this exact same schedule playing an SEC schedule or this exact team playing a Big 12 schedule, one of those, they're not putting up those same numbers.
Right.
So I do think Northeastern could beat you on any given day just because that like I mentioned last time, that they're a team that scares you on a day. They're not a team that scares you in a series. So if they beat you twice, that's a massive concern. Beating you once, that could happen.
And you need to set the tone and win that first one. Because if you lose that one, assuming Pico is your pitcher in that one, that's a major issue.
Right.
Now, maybe they don't go with Pico because they'd rather save him for a do or die type game.
The elimination.
But
right.
Yeah. Or if they lost to Northeastern, maybe you don't pitch him against Bethune-Cookman right then. Maybe you would pitch him in that next game, assuming you win that one.
Again, apologies to the 3 Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah. But I think he will pitch that first one against Northeastern just because I think it's a tone-setting type game. And remember, he didn't pitch in the SEC tournament. So he's been off for a while. It'd be good to get him out there and pitch that game. But I just think because of, like you said, the history and everything, you just can't lose to Northeastern. Now, here's the question. If they do lose in the regional, we know the staff is gone. And we know the staff is likely gone anyways because it's an interim staff right now with Justin Parker as the interim head coach. But if they make a little run here, maybe they get to the super regional, take a team to 3 games, lose a tough-fought third game, or maybe they get to the World Series and they get bounced early or something. Because of how they ended with the regular season 9-1, now they had an early bounce in the SEC tournament, but then they go on a run in the postseason. What do you think happens?
Unless you're holding a trophy at the end of the year, I don't see any reason to keep anyone on the staff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go on a magical run, you win the World Series, there's no way you can keep or get rid of Parker after that. You hold a trophy at the end of the year, you can't get rid of those guys. But if you make a great run, maybe you end up in the College World Series and you lose. Maybe you have a conversation with the new head coach you bring in, like, hey, Parker's pretty good. Maybe we should keep him around on staff in another role. Maybe that's a conversation you have. But unless you make a deep run past the super regionals, there's no reason to keep anyone on staff.
No, I agree. Yeah, you have to move on from this staff because I have seen some people talk about this team isn't as talented as years past. And we agree. They're not. Now they're still talented enough to make a super regional. Yeah, but they're not as talented as they've had in years past. And while Lemonis gets the bulk of that because he was the head coach, that also goes on Parker and all the other assistant coaches. We've talked about how poor this pitching staff is outside of Pico. Now, Evan has kind of come on lately, but the bullpen's been terrible. They really struggled to find that second starter until Evan came on lately. They have some young players that they're kind of, excited for, but overall, the pitching staff is very weak. That's on Parker. I mean, that's on these assistant coaches as well. And so the reason why the program's in the state it is right now is largely because of everyone involved, not just Lemonis, although, again, he will get the bulk of the blame. So unless you unless you win a championship, like you said, everyone's probably gone. And that's why, obviously, you want your team to win it every year. But that's why I think you probably don't want this team to win it, because I think they do need to move on. And I think if they did win it, you're in a bad situation. It kind of reminds me of a couple years ago when the Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA championship. I had said for a while, they got to move on from Budenholzer because he was just holding them back. Well, they break through and they win. There were reports that whole postseason. As soon as they lose and they're out, he's fired.
Yeah.
But they ended up winning. And so they couldn't fire him at that point. Well, that ended up setting them back the next year because they didn't win it. And I can't remember if he was on the team. I think he was gone by the year after that. Or maybe he was still there and then got fired. I can't remember. But regardless, they had to keep him because they won it. And they really didn't want to keep him because they knew he had kind of reached his potential. And so that's kind of the situation I believe you'd be in with Parker.
Yeah, keeping the interim never works out. I think out of the interim coaches that have worked out, I want to say the 2003 Marlins are the only time that has been a good call. And that was Jim Leland, who was a borderline Hall of Fame manager before that run. So, again, not exactly apples to apples there when you're talking about a guy who may be in the MLB Hall of Fame before he takes over a run that leads you to a championship. So that never works out. The pitching staff has struggled, which is what Parker was in charge of. Again, you got to get rid of them unless you're holding a title, which as much as I want that may be worst case scenario for the next 2 to 3 years.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to be throwing a party that night if it happens, but 2 years next year about this time, you're going to be seeing a very angry version of me if that happens.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. All right, coming up next, football got earned a commitment. Is there more on the way? We'll talk about it. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so this would have been, May 25th. Brodie McWhorter, who's obviously the quarterback commit in the 2025 class, he tweeted out, "All I can say is it's going to be a great next few weeks." Then in all caps, he said, "Ring that bell," with a gif of Chris Fowler from College Game Day ringing the cowbell, obviously. This followed Kobe Barrett committing, who committed on the 24th. He's a safety from Baylor school that's out in Tennessee. He's a 3-star on 3, 24/7 at ESPN. He's the 108th kind of composite safety. 64th is his highest, and that's on ESPN. And so he's the commit they got, but it sounds like the next few weeks more's on the way.
Yeah, you don't expect a guy. I mean, we kind of talked about it. Like Brodie McWhorter, he's kind of like that on the fringe 3-star, 4-star rising prospect. You wouldn't expect someone of his stature and of your quarterback of the future to be like, hey, there's a lot of commitments coming. And you have a guy who, and the next commitment, who, according to 24/7, is your next to lowest rated commitment. No shade to Colby Barrett. That doesn't mean he's not going to be good. It's just, you don't expect that type of reaction from a quarterback if that's the extent of it. You expect more to be on the way.
Yeah, and one that could be on the way. Now, it's not going to be in the next couple weeks. Chris Carbon, who is a linebacker. I think he's listed as an edge on 3, but he's listed on linebacker on a lot of other places. He's announced his commitment will be July 4th. He's choosing between Baylor, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Mississippi State, and Virginia Tech. Very solid schools. He's actually visiting Mississippi State just in a few days on the 30th. He's then going to Georgia Tech the week after, Baylor on the week after, Louisville on the week after, and then he'll then take a week or two, I guess, to decide where he's going to go. But he talked about it. He said he likes Coach Jeff Lebby and the whole staff. He said their coaching staff loves me and they feel I am a big-time SEC player. How they recruit me makes me feel special, so I'm ready to see what it is like. So we'll see if that's one of the ones on the way, but you're at that point in the year where you'll start seeing recruiting start to pick up.
Yeah, you should see it start to pick up. And one of the guys who, if he chooses Mississippi State or not, that I expect to have a commitment from soon, and I'm going to butcher where he's from. It's Evan Goodwin from I want to say Bowite, Arkansas. I don't know if you should pronounce that X or not. I mean, being from East Texas, I should understand that, but I don't. I mean, the teams you're going against: Missouri, SMU, and Oklahoma State. He is a 4-star offensive tackle. That's a guy who I expect to commit soon. He trimmed his list to 4 schools probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe. So I would expect him to come up soon. And then Zaylen Cotton from Grenada, Mississippi, Mississippi State, Arkansas, and NC State. Just one of those fringe 3-star, 4-star guys. Those are 2 guys who I would expect to maybe not make a decision in the next couple weeks, but pretty soon. So hopefully we're in the mix for those guys. One of them will, one or both of them will join the fold.
Yeah, and this is Mississippi State's a team the last 4 years kind of average about 25 commits
Yeah.
per cycle. They're sitting at 8 right now. They're the
So a few more
42nd.
to come is what you're saying.
Yeah, a few more are definitely coming. Also, I just remember this kind of his tweet, McWhorter's tweet, kind of comes on the backs of the report we read maybe it was last week or the week before that, where it said that at the Rivals camp he was talking and recruiting to a lot of players out there. So did he get tipped off where a lot were like, all right, I'll come at least visit, or I am going to come, or I am interested in coming to Mississippi State. Whatever the case may be, was he kind of tipped off on that, and that's why he's tweeting out something like this? That remains to be seen. Also, I think you're also in a spot with Mississippi State where you are kind of in a wait and see pattern because you had the first year last year and it didn't go great. You went 2-10, but I think a lot of guys are kind of waiting and seeing, okay, is progress being made? And if it is, I want to be a part of that progress. I'm jumping on board. But with this transfer portal era and stuff like that, do I want to jump on board, it fail, and now I'm looking for a different home because this new coach doesn't want me there, or whatever the case may be? And so that's what you got to watch out for. But sounds like some good news and some good talking points are on the way.
Yeah, it seems like between this commitment, Brodie McWhorter making that statement, and where he made it, there's probably some good news coming. Now, how long we actually have to wait, because I mean, we're talking about a decision of 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
Right.
I remember me at that age. I don't envy them having to make a life-changing decision at that age.
Right.
So I mean, when that comes, when that could happen, who's to say? But it sounds like some good things are on the way, and having Colby Barrett in the fold is great. Hopefully there's a few more guys coming this way.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm Jaron Spor. You can follow my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Post daily videos Monday through Friday on those platforms, so check that out. We also drop a question on every single YouTube video, so we love your feedback on that. We try to answer as many of that as possible. And then we also drop a poll, a separate question. It's also on YouTube. We love your feedback on that as well. So help us out. If there's something you want us to talk about, or pretty soon we're going to, especially once baseball season ends, if a coach hasn't been named, we're going to kind of break down some of the coaching candidates. So we'll dive into that a little more. And then obviously spring football. But until next time, or I guess summer football at this point. Spring's over, so summer football. But until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.